I've brought Hunter out into the forest with me, and he's very impatiently waiting in the car for me to set him loose on a trail that I've salted for him. There are two major schools of thought when it comes to tracking: tracking through drive and footstep tracking. Both have their advantages and disadvantages, and we've been working predominantly on footstep tracking. So he learns to use his nose to identify areas where the soil has been disturbed. Hunter, seek. But I do intend to incorporate tracking through drive at a later stage. Now, I know it's been said that you can't teach a dog who's done FST to do TTD, but I'm sure that we can better that statement. In this video, I'm going to share with you our progress in tracking, because we're not 100% where we want to be yet, but it's a great start for anybody who wants to teach their dog how to track humans. I'm Clarice. Welcome to the Live Ready channel. Somebody once said to me, start how you would like to end. And there's really a lot of value in that statement. And with tracking, that's very much true. If you want to set off being able to teach your dog how to track, doesn't matter what circumstances, doesn't matter the terrain, and it doesn't matter what exactly you're tracking, then you need to be open to incorporating different kinds of exercises into your tracking, because no tracking incident is ever going to be exactly as we set it up. We predominantly want to help the local community just to be able to track people who go missing. We have lots of dementia patients who wander off and people who get lost in the mountains. For the moment, we're tracking through footstep tracking, which is basically me laying a track for the dog. And there are wonderful advantages to this. It's a great way to start your dog off on tracking because it teaches them to use their nose. And I can really say that I've seen a difference in Hunter just in his everyday behavior. Since we've started tracking training, because he's learned to trust his nose, we've actually progressed to the point where we are tracking over tar roads. For a tracking square, you need 4 markers. For article training, you need a little article. I've got a little piece of leather that I use. You want the leather to smell like you. So if you want to start off with just putting that in your hand, or maybe putting it in your clothing or something like that, just so that it gains a scent. We want to teach the dog how to identify and to indicate an article to us. Then we're going to go into the tracking square, and I'm just going to show you quickly how you do a tracking square, and then how these two exercises combine to give you straight line tracking. Good boy, good. On me. Good. Hunter. Sit. Sit. Good. Good boy. Good. So he knows that we're going to work now. Okay, for article training, he doesn't actually need to be on a leash. You can have your dog on a leash if you want to, but what you ideally just want to do is you want to show the dog the article, and then what you have is a couple of kibbles in your hand, or food, or whatever treats you use. Or you can use a clicker if you want to do that. He's quite food motivated, and I ration him minimum wage. This is actually some of his breakfast that we've kept over. Good boy. Okay, so I'm going to let him off the leash. That's perfectly fine for now. We can just put this over here. All right, so what you do, you show him the article, and ideally, eventually, this article lands up at the end of a trail, and it's an indication that somebody has passed by there, and it's the person that you're tracking. So ideally, you want the dog to then show you that there's an article, and ideally you want them to lie down or show you some behavior or whatever. So I taught him that in 2 separate phases. I first showed him this is an article, show me that there's an article, and then I taught him to lie down when he finds the article. So those were 2 separate exercises for us at the beginning. Okay, Hunter, here. He sees the article, I drop it. Good, good. And as soon as he puts his nose to the article, I'm just dropping kibbles on it. Good, up, good, here. Good. See, he by now knows that he must lie down, which he didn't do at first. And every time he puts his nose to the article, I just give him some kibbles. Good, up, on me. Good, good. Oops, try not to drop kibbles. It happens. All right, article. Good. 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 Good boy. Good. Finished. All right, so that's what we do at the end of the trail. I like to do this with him at the beginning of a tracking exercise to remind him that this is what he's going to find and what he must do. It actually took us longer to do article training than it did for us to actually get straight line training or straight line tracking down. All right, next exercise. You're going to go back in the car for a minute, my boy. The reason I started this video off saying start how you want to end is because when you start a dog off tracking, a lot of the things that you do indicate to the dog that you're now working. So him waiting in the car for me is one thing. He knows that this isn't a game anymore. He's had a walk out in the forest with me, he's emptied his stomach, he's had some water, so he can now focus on what we're going to do, and that's a good place to start your dog so that they can focus. Now I'm going to put a harness on him, which he only gets to wear when we're doing tracking. This again indicates to him we're working now. And if you're going to end up tracking with your dog in a harness, start how you want to end. Whatever harness you're going to track with him in at a later stage, in reality, start your training with that harness on from the beginning. So start how you want to end. You can apply that to many things in life. All right, so fundamentals of tracking is really discipline, goes right back to your discipline. You need a calm dog that's not reactive, something that we're still struggling a little bit with in tracking exercises because he gets excited. Video link. Are you crazy now? But that's something that you work through, so don't expect your dog to get it right the first time, every time. Exercise number 2 involves a tracking square. So what a tracking square is you literally take 4 markers, make a little square. The ideal is to have markers that the dog doesn't eventually end up associating with the exercise. So you can use 4 rocks, preferably not something that the dog wants to play with. So ideally, you want to sort of start outside your tracking square and not pollute the environment around it. And your tracking square should be about the same, well, 1.5 times the size of your dog. So I'm going to hop into here, and I'm just going to make a little space behind my foot, and I'm going to move forward about 1.5 times Hunter's size. It can be hard to judge a dog's size this way. And I'm just going to make a little square. And what this does is it teaches the dog the scent of the soil that has been disturbed. And you can do this on grass. We started off on the lawn doing this originally. And then you just put, that's the 4th one. And then all around here, you're going to disturb the foliage, you're going to disturb the grass, and what it teaches them is just to associate the smell of the broken grass and the upturned soil with a treat. So now I'm going to lay some kibbles on the inside, and I like to lay the kibble right on the edge also, because it teaches the dog also to give me a negative, which is what we call a track loss indicator. So the moment he goes outside of the square and he goes, hang on, this isn't disturbed, it doesn't smell the same, there's no kibble there. So he learns to use his nose to identify areas where the soil has been disturbed. This would also have my scent on it. At a later stage, you can also teach him that it should be associated with the scent of a person. Hopping out again. Sit. Good. Wait. I like to be able to give him a command that he needs to go and S-E-E-K. I want to be able to point, and I want him to take on that trail. All right. Hunter, seek. Good. So now I'm looking for him to give me negative or a track loss indicator or a negative as soon as he gets to the edge of the square. And I can get into the square with him, that's perfectly fine. It's actually ideal. And I'm just literally letting him pick up all of the kibbles that I've dropped. And all it teaches him is just trust your nose. Where there is a disturbance, that's what I want you to find. Good. Good. That was a negative. Good. Track loss indicator again. So we've done plenty of this, so he's showing it quite nicely. Good. And try not to guide them too much. Ideally, I don't want him to go too far out of the square. He's quite good at this by now. But you'll see in the beginning, your dog might wander a little bit further out of the square before they realize that there's nothing there, there's nothing to find. Good boy, good. Good, I think we've just gotten all the kibbles. maybe 1 or 2 more here. Okay, and I don't want us to linger here too long. We found that there's no more reward. So then if there's no more reward, then I want him to go, okay, we're done here now. There's 1 more by his nose. Good, finished, come, finished, good. Good boy. We probably spent the better part of 2 weeks just doing a tracking square and article training before I moved him onto straight line tracking. We didn't do it every day, we didn't do the exercise every day, but make sure that your dog understands that they must wait, that they must action your command. So when you say seek, that is my marker for him, or my command for him to go and look for whatever I'm pointing at. And I like for him to be able to go in the direction that I'm pointing. So when I started straight line tracking, I also did it on grass initially. And then I brought him out here and I salted a track down the road here for him. There's a sandy road here. And for me, because we're not tracking in reality is very seldom across a lawn. So ideally what you want to do is you want to try and teach your dog different terrains, and that they must use their nose still in different terrains. So it's not just going to be grass, it's also going to be sand, it's going to be over the tar road, it's going to be through thick bush. So try and eventually vary the terrain as well. You can do a tracking square on sand, you can do a tracking square on grass, so that your dog also gets used to it's not just a grass exercise, it's a wherever we are sort of exercise. One of the disadvantages of footstep tracking is that dogs tend to not be able to concentrate that long, because you're asking them to look very carefully for footsteps with their nose, to sense and to smell out footsteps, and it takes a lot of concentration for them. So they don't work very fast and it's not very efficient, and I think there's like a success rate of 5% on footstep tracking if you're really trying to find someone, which is why I said earlier in this video I'd like to incorporate tracking through drive as well. It's a slightly different exercise. Tracking through drive, you have a large area, but you have to be downwind of whatever you're tracking. For salting a trail, you want to use an area that you haven't disturbed, that you haven't left a scent on, or that you haven't actually left any tracks on, so that when the dog goes over there the first time, the only track that they're smelling is the track that you're setting for them. You can use 2 markers, one at the beginning so that you know where it starts, and one at the end. I'm going to use my indicator or my article that I used earlier with Hunter at the end of my trail, and what I ideally want is for him to lie down at the end of the trail and show me I found something. Okay, so if we are trying to track someone and they've discarded something along the way, I want him to wait there and go, yes, okay, seek, and then he can go along and seek further or whatever. All right, so I haven't been down this road. I've had to walk a nice loop around here to get the 2 cameras over there. I like to make just a little line, and then I'm also going to hop into the track that I'm salting. And I'm just going to make a nice little footprint there and a footprint there. I'm going to indicate to myself this is where the first one was, and I'm just disturbing the foliage where I'm going. So you can use your toe to just rub it a little bit, and then in every track at the start at least, place a kibble or a reward so that the dog goes, oh, that was nice. That was a disturbance, and where the disturbance was, there was a reward. So where I disturb the foliage, try to get your reward inside the footprint and not all over the place. Can be a little balancing act. And then at a later point, you can start omitting some kibbles from some footprints, which I started doing with him, just so that he starts to associate the exercise is actually about the disturbance, not so much just about the reward, and that in itself becomes a reward, and you can give him a reward at the end rather than in every footprint. But for now, we're going to start off with a kibble in every one of the first footprints. And then especially, I like to, where I can see that there's a footprint, I'm just doing my toe actually. I like to actually, sometimes if I can see that there's a footprint, I'll not put a kibble in it. I'll put one over here. Here and there, I'm going to start skipping one, just because we've done that before. So you can, if you're just starting off on this exercise, you can put a kibble in every single footprint. I'm going to skip 1, 2 here, go on with 3, and right here by the bush we'll see if he loses the trail there, I'm going to go around the bush, around the grass. If I think he might lose the scent, and I'll do shorter steps. Here I can see that footprint really well, so I can tell if he skips over it, and that one too. And here I'm going to put a kibble again. Skip one. Here. Oop. It's okay. Might just throw him off a little, but it's fine. 2 kibbles. And then I'm now pretty much at the end of where I want our line to end. And I'm now going to take my article and I'm going to drop my article on the ground. There we go. And now I'm also going to hop out of my track. Okay, so I've decided to give you a first person view of what this looks like. Here's my mark on the ground. Come on me. Sit. Sit. Good boy. Good. Very good. All right, now I'm going to point at my marker. No, sit. Sit. I'm going to point at my marker, which is just over there. There. And I'm going to tell him to seek, and we're going to go all the way down this line here. Okay. Hunter, seek. Good. Good. And now I want him to track in a straight line. There's my next marker. And I don't really want him to turn all over the place. I want him to follow his nose and go directly for each footprint that I've made. Good boy. Good. There's my next one. Good. Give him a bit of room. And you can see what it looks like from this angle. Good boy. Good. And here I veered off course a little, came a little skew. There's a track there. There's another. And he's gotten good at this. So he finds just about every single track. He knows to use his nose to find where I've made an imprint. Good. Seek. Good. And if you find that eventually they sort of lose concentration, then just give them the same command again. Okay, there's my next footprint. Good. Next footprint. Good. 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 And this is around the bush or around the grass. And he's done really well so far. Good. Good. Good boy, good. Yeah, you're getting almost all of them now. So sometimes he misses a whole lot of them, and here I've actually left some tracks open with no kibble. Found it. Good. 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 And he's on my track. And you can see this is quite slow progress as opposed to tracking through drive, which is really quick. Good. Article. Hunter. Oh, missed the article. Down. Oops. Here. Down. Down. Good. And just reinforcing that command. That was the article. Good. Good. Looks a bit like a snake, actually. It's quite scary. Good. All right. So that's something that we need to work on then. Good. Finished up. Is then actually lying down when he finds the article at the end of the trail. It's something that we've only recently incorporated, so I'm not surprised it didn't get that, but then just reinforce that with your dog. Just say, lie down when you get to the article. And that's also why doing article training at the beginning of your tracking is a good idea. So there are a couple of things that are good to understand about tracking on principle. If you're really good at tracking, you're also really good at counter tracking. If you're good at counter tracking as a person, and if you haven't watched those videos of mine yet, I'll link them here. If you're good at counter tracking, you understand how people counter track, which also helps you to teach your dog in order to be able to find where people have tried to employ counter tracking methods. And you as a handler become more aware of them throwing things like cayenne pepper or something in their spoor. So you can protect your dog against things like that, especially if you are working in law enforcement. It really helps to have a good understanding of the fundamentals of tracking and counter-tracking as a human being. So there are a couple of things that you need to consider when you are teaching your dog how to track. One of those is the wind. With TTD, you're asking them to run upwind in a direction where they smell the subject. You've given them something that is scented. Maybe the person has discarded something or they've dropped something, and you show it to the dog the same way that you would an article or so. and you say seek, and then the dog has to run or track or whatever. This guy's off his leash at the moment. You're crazy. Okay. You have to have a doggy good time. All right. Are you coming back here again? Hello. Hello, Hunter. Hello. Hello. Did you have a nice time? So when you're asking a dog to track through drive, you're letting them run in a direction and you're just asking that dog to trust their instinct and run. But you have to be downwind of that subject. I said this earlier. But now you've got things like terrain challenges. And I'm going to put a link in the description to the video of a military field guide that was rescinded. It's some interesting reading on tracking, on military dog training tracking, and there's a whole bunch of other resources in the description as well. So go and check those out. And are you crazy now? So things like that you need to take into consideration as a dog handler. The wind direction, things that get discarded, things that people use to throw dogs off their scent, like putting cayenne pepper and stuff in their tracks. Those things can be damaging to your dog, and it can really put your dog out of that tracking. And time is really of the essence, because the trail does age and the tracks do age. I'm going to put a video link. Was that the same dog that I had like 10 minutes ago? I'm going to put a video link in the description to this video as well of tracking through drive. There's a nice article that explains the difference between footstep tracking and tracking through drive, the difference between those two, and a few examples of how to teach your dog both. Very good. Good boy. If you found value in this video, remember to hit like and subscribe. Follow me on social media. There's plenty of the everyday live ready stuff that goes onto Instagram and TikTok and onto the YouTube shorts. So keep an eye out for those. And until the next time, live ready. Good, you did so good. Yes, you did.